evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2025 Rick Steves Europe Festival of Tours. My name is Emily Burks, and I am delighted to be your moderator this evening. Tonight, we have reached the grand finale of our 9-night Festival of Tours, and to celebrate, Dave Gunnick and Robin Sensel will be sharing a highlight reel of our tour members' favorite wow moments while traveling with us. But before we begin this whirlwind of armchair travels, please allow me just a few introductory announcements. We are officially on to the grand finale of our Festival of Tours, and tonight we are focusing on the best wow moments on tour, according to our tour members and our office staffers. If you have missed any of our previous live shows, you can find all 8 recordings on our website. And if you would like to join us for more virtual events, I would like to invite you to join us next Monday, May 5th, on Monday Night Travel, during which we will be traveling to Mexico City. To celebrate the launch of our 2026 tours, we are giving away 2 Rick Steves Europe week-long city tours to 2 lucky viewers, and it is not too late to enter. You still have the next 28 minutes to submit an entry form to our giveaway, and we will be announcing the winners during the live show tonight. But please note, we can only accept 1 submission per household, and this contest is limited to residents of the United States. And unfortunately, due to laws beyond our control, our friends in New York, Florida, Rhode Island, and Puerto Rico are unable to participate. And while there can only be two city tour winners, anybody can take advantage of our early booking discount. From now through July 7th, we are offering $100 off per traveler on all 2026 tour bookings, and that discount is automatically applied at checkout. But if you just can't wait until 2026 to travel with us, I have good news for you. We have a number of our 2025 tours on sale, and you can start your shopping with those using the link in the chat widget. And if you have already started shopping for a Rick Steves tour, you may have noticed we have many, many itineraries all across Europe, 46 itineraries in total. And if you're having trouble narrowing it down to which tour you'd like to take, this is a great show for you tonight, because we are going to enjoy a beautiful sampling platter of our tour members' favorite wow moments on tour. So on that note, please join me in welcoming our 2 hosts this evening, Mr. Gabe Gunnick and Ms. Robin Sensel. Hello, you 2. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Emily. Good to be here.
All right. Well, in keeping with the theme of tonight's show, I was wondering if the 2 of you have had a favorite wow moment from this festival.
I would say, well, of course, mine was 2 nights ago when I did the France presentation with Virginie. Her internet cut out for about 2 minutes, and I got to be the star of the show. But seriously, it really has been connecting with our guides. Anytime I get to work with our guides, I always learn something. I always just find my cheeks hurting because I'm smiling so much, and especially the fact that our guides were so generous to join us during a busy season and during the middle of the night. So working with them has really been a joy.
For me, I think even just prepping for the festival, we were talking about what we wanted to do with it, and we came up with the idea of doing these wow moments. And as Emily mentioned, these are actually from tour members. We send out a survey after every tour, and we specifically ask, what was your favorite wow moment on tour? So it's been really fun to go through all 46 itineraries and see not only what we think is great about the tours, but what do our tour members think about it.
Wonderful. Well, I am so excited to see what the 2 of you have cooked up for us tonight. And so I am going to turn it over to you, but I'll see you during the Q&A.
Thank you, Emily. All right, before we get going on our wow moments, I want to give all of you a quick reminder that another virtual event offering we have is our Tours 101 information session. We would love to have you join us for this. It is basically, it's not specific to any region or itinerary. It is just an overview of what makes our tours unique and whether a Rick Steves Europe tour would be a good fit for you. Because while we think our tours are fantastic, we also know that people will only enjoy them if they share our travel style. You can learn a lot more about that travel style by joining one of the sessions. Our next one is May 8, but we also have them scheduled throughout the summer if you'd like to join. As a very quick overview though, these are some hallmarks of our travel style. Of course, we want you to have fun and we will have some hedonism and enjoy some great food, but we also want travelers that are curious, that want to learn about art and history and connect with local people and come away with a broader perspective. We have small, friendly groups of 24 to 28 people. We have full-size coach buses, so that means that the buses are only about half full. You'll have plenty of space, and everybody on the bus will have signed a no grumps policy because we want tour members that always look on the positive and are militantly optimistic. In terms of hotels, we're not going to be staying in five-star franchise hotels on the outskirts of cities with every amenity imaginable. Instead, we prioritize smaller, family-run, independently owned hotels in the city center as much as possible. They will always be clean and comfortable. They might not have every amenity, but we think that the greatest amenity is being able to walk out the front door and be in the middle of the city. We focus on local experiences from food tours to cooking classes to sheepdog demonstrations and connect with local people as well. We want travelers that can travel light and right with just a carry-on bag and a personal item, and also people that can do plenty of walking. We do have active tours, and you can find an activity rating for each tour on our website. Lastly, as I mentioned, the guides are a highlight of the tours for me. We have fantastic guides, not just lead guides, but also local guides that will guide you around their city or the museum for the day. And all of our guides have been tipped in advance. It is included in the cost of your tour, the tips for the guides and the driver. They're not going to try to get you to go shopping so that they can get kickbacks. You can know that the guide is your friend and is on your side. So you can learn more about that in our Tours 101 information session, but wanted to do a quick review before we get into our wow moments for the evening. And Robin, can you tell us what we have in store for tonight?
Yeah, Gabe, we are going to cross Europe getting some of our tour members' favorite wow moments. And we're going to focus on a couple itineraries that haven't yet been covered in the Festival of Tours. In addition to that, we're also going to hear from a handful of Rick Steves Europe staff members on what their most memorable tour days were. In the second half of the show, we will announce those grand prize winners and we'll close everything out with a question and answer session.
All right, well, I am excited. Robin, before we officially embark on our first wow moment, I want to say a quick cheers to you. What are you
Cheers.
drinking tonight?
I have a mango shurla, which is like a take on an apple shurla, which is just sparkling water and mango juice.
I love that. Well, I have some rakia from Bulgaria, which I'll mention later tonight, their local fire water that I will be sipping. So cheers,
Cheers.
Robin. Cheers to all of you at home. We're going to have a little finale party tonight, so hopefully you have something to sip or nibble on. All right, we are going to get started with our very first wow moment. As Robin said, we are going to be covering 10 different itineraries tonight and looking at a variety of wow moments. The vast majority of our 46 itineraries we have already covered, but there were a few that didn't quite fit in the regions for the previous shows. You know, we did France, Italy, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, but a few tours on the margins got left out, so we want to give them some love tonight. And the first one is going to be the Best of Scandinavia. Now, I'm not sure that the Best of Scandinavia requires much promotion because it is routinely one of our fastest selling tours. In fact, last month when we released our tours, a few of the departures had already almost sold out before we even made the announcement. But we are still going to review it because it is one of our favorite itineraries. We start out in Stockholm, zip down on a high-speed train to Copenhagen, make a little side trip to the idyllic island of Arrow before going back up into Sweden and then into Norway, where we go to Oslo. We see the mountains and the fjords and finish in Bergen. And I'm going to quickly share the top wow moment from each of the three countries according to our tour members. The first in Sweden is Gamla stan, which is the historic core of Stockholm. I was on Google Maps last night and I was doing some sleuthing and I realized that the royal palace of the Swedish royal family, the Swedish Parliament building, the Stockholm Town Hall, and the National Opera, those four major sites, you could all fit them within a circle that has a 1/3 mile radius. But the real interesting thing is that all four of them are on different pieces of land. So it is mind-boggling to me when you're in this bustling urban metropolis that it is constructed on just little bits of land here and there, about 14 islands in all. And Gamla stan is actually a neighborhood that is on a couple small islands, but it is the historic core where you are going to find characteristic, colorful houses all nestled together shoulder to shoulder, and many people nestled together shoulder to shoulder. If you time it just right, you will also perhaps see the changing of the guard or even a horse parade through the streets. And so it is always lively to be in the center of Stockholm. For some more small town charm, we go to Denmark's tiny idyllic island of Aro, which is the best preserved 18th century town in all of Denmark. It is a 34 square mile island, and we have an entire free day there. So some of our longer tours, 2 weeks or longer, they'll have a vacation from your vacation day. And we take ours on Aro about halfway through the tour. This gives you an opportunity to kick back and relax after a couple big cities. Many travelers choose to rent a bike and go along the cobbled lanes of the city, or go along one of the cottage-dotted beaches for beautiful views and a little picnic. Lastly, Norway. You probably guessed it, the number one wow moment is fjords, and in particular, the granddaddy of all fjords, the Sonia Fjord, which looks like it might realistically go on forever. And you can find out on the 2-hour cruise of the Sonia Fjord that our tour groups do, and you can take in as much of that beauty as possible. Now, a personal wow moment for me, this is a photo from almost 10 years ago now, my first trip to Scandinavia. I was in Stockholm, and I want to give a shout out to something I did that is also on our tour, which is a visit to the Stockholm City Hall. In a lot of Southern Europe, sometimes the building that's the center of town is the cathedral, but we often point out that in the Scandinavian countries, this is usually the city hall, which acts as kind of a cathedral for civic life. And this is very true of the Stockholm City Hall. I love how it's perched on these little pillars, so it almost feels like it's floating, and it invites the people to walk under and among them. And you can also go inside. Our tour groups do a little tour of the interior. I had a chance to go into the interior as this is actually, I should say, this is where the Nobel Prize banquet is held each year. And I also got to go for a banquet. Alas, I was not nominated for a Nobel Prize. This is for an athletic event that I was attending, but I wanted to share this photo because of a marvel of Scandinavian design and engineering, which is that little clip on the end of your plate that holds your wine glass. So Scandinavian design at its finest. But if you go upstairs, you get to tour these beautiful gilded mosaics, and you are not going to see images of saints or gods and goddesses, but rather you're going to see scenes from Swedish history and civic life, buildings throughout the town. And this was certainly one of my wow moments from Stockholm. Other highlights of our Scandinavia tour. So after we kind of go through highlights from each tour, we're going to share a few honorable mentions. One is the Hans Christian Andersen walking tour in Copenhagen, Denmark, with an actor impersonating the children's author. I already mentioned the Fjord Cruise, but it deserves another shout out. And the Viking Ship Museum in Roskilde, Denmark, shows travelers how Viking ships were made. On to our next slate of wow moments, this time from Switzerland. Our Best of Switzerland tour has a special place in my heart because it's the first tour that I ever went on with the company, and it was a fantastic introduction to our tour program. We're going to hear a couple wow moments from my colleague Marta in just a moment, but I couldn't help but share one of my own, which is in Bern, Switzerland. The Aar River goes around the town on 3 sides, and you can just hop in and float down with the locals. This is a very common sight on a summer day. And then you just walk your way back up the path and you jump in again. And they kind of treat the river like their living room. Now, though, I want to go to my colleague Marta, who is going to share with us a couple of her wow moments. She was on the tour just last year, so she has some more up-to-date wow moments for us.
Hi, everybody. My name is Marta, and I am a travel advisor at Rick Steves Europe. So if you've ever called us, you might have spoken with me on the phone. And I'm really excited today to share some highlights from our Best of Switzerland tour, which I took last September. All right, so here is a quick look at the 12-day itinerary. This tour moves clockwise around the country, starting in Lucerne, then to the traditional town of Appenzell, down to the Italian-speaking region of Switzerland, across to the French-speaking region, through the gorgeous Swiss Alps, and ending in Switzerland's capital, which is Bern. I would say every day brought a wow moment, but I will share two of my personal favorites today. The first was in the traditional Appenzeller Music Center. Appenzell is a rural town in Switzerland that's deeply tied to Swiss traditions like dairy farming and cattle processions and traditional dancing and yodeling. Speaking of yodeling, this is where we met Walti, who is a dairy farmer and a lifelong Appenzeller yodeler. We actually got to enjoy a private yodeling performance by him, and this was such a wow moment for me because I actually had no idea how beautiful yodeling could sound. But the real highlight was, I would say, is when Walti actually taught us how to yodel. This experience was, to me, was such a reminder of the joy in connecting with other cultures while traveling and how our tours and connections with locals on the ground create opportunities for moments that independent travelers might not have the easiest time creating on their own. I think that's super special. I loved how everyone in the group joined in without any hesitation. Our group really bonded on this day, and it's just such a good example of how travel pushes us to step outside of our comfort zones and embrace opportunities we might not have tried otherwise, and giving us new experiences and new friends. And then my second wow moment was on day 9 when we take a gondola up to the 10,000 feet high Schildhorn for breakfast at a rotating restaurant. We have views of the Eiger, Monk, and Jungfrau peaks. And thanks to our tour guide, Miriam's careful planning, we arrived on an incredibly clear morning. So we had an early start, but it was well worth it. The nature in Switzerland is just stunning. Thanks to their amazing network of mountain transportation, it's also surprisingly accessible. It just felt really surreal up there, just surrounded by all of these mountains being so high up. After breakfast, we stepped out onto the viewing platform, and everyone in the group just kind of fell silent. It was one of those rare moments where the world just feels so huge and beautiful. And it was such a moment of stillness and awe in an otherwise packed trip. So I think sharing that with the group made it extra special. So this is where my presentation ends. I am looking forward to my next Rick Steves tour, and until then, I am still dreaming of Switzerland. Okay, thank you for reliving these memories with me, everybody, and happy travels.
Well, Robin, I think a lot of thanks go to you for all of those Swiss wow moments because I know you've been instrumental in developing that itinerary. Was it fun to relive it through Marta's eyes?
It's always fun to relive it. And the yodeling, I don't know if you've ever tried it. It's a lot harder than it might seem, but it's always fun to see people get up there and give it a go.
Well, you'll have to give me a private lesson sometime.
Oh, Rick is a good yodeler, if you've ever heard him yodel. Yeah.
All
But
right. The
speaking
next
of
time
all,
we have him on Monday Night Travel, I know what I'm asking in the Q&A.
yeah, he's a good teacher of it also. But while we're speaking of music, oops, sorry, I just advanced a little too fast. We do have a number of tours where a musical component is built in, like the Chopin concert in Warsaw on the Best of Poland tour. We also have a fado performance in Lisbon on our Heart of Portugal tour. And on our Best of England tour in the Cotswolds, we have a musical folk group come and spend the evening with us. But even if you don't have a specific event on your tour, there are plenty of places our tours visit where you can opt to book your own evening concert or performance. An evensong, if you're in England, could be an amazing place to do that. And now, we didn't have a chance to cover Holland and Belgium tour earlier in our festival. So before I can talk about what the top wow moment is on this itinerary, I'm going to give you a little mini orientation to it. You will spend the night in quaint canal lace towns like Bruges and Ghent. You'll sample Belgium's most mouth-watering exports, chocolate and beer. And you'll learn about World War I by visiting the American cemetery and Flanders fields around the town of Ypres. Now, we start off the tour in medieval Ghent, getting a lay of the city on a canal cruise, and then diving into traditional cuisine in a welcome to Belgium dinner together. We'll sleep 2 nights in Ghent, exploring the historic city center and visiting the soaring St. Bravos Cathedral, home to the Ghent altarpiece, which is famous for having been stolen during the Nazis in World War II and recovered by the famous Monuments Men. Leaving Ghent, we'll stop to visit Flanders Field and learn about the infamous battlefields where 500,000 soldiers lost their lives. Before ending the day in Gothic Bruges, we will sleep here in Bruges a luxurious 3 nights, which gives us plenty of time to unwind, soak in the ambiance of the medieval town, and we even have an entire day free to explore. So the choice is yours. You can visit one of the handful of popular sites, taste your way through the local specialties, or hop on a bike and travel out to a nearby windmill. After 5 days in Belgium, we'll cross the border into the Netherlands, heading toward its second largest city, Rotterdam. Rotterdam was built after being flattened completely during World War II. So this modern-day metropolis is the opposite of those quaint towns that we'll see in Belgium. This town has soaring skyscrapers, futuristic market halls, and a 21st century buzz, giving us a taste of modern-day Netherlands. Then we'll continue our journey into North Holland, where we'll get our first glimpse at the Netherlands' blooming flower industry at the Aalsmeer Flower Auction or the Keukenhof Gardens. And speaking of that, that brings us to this tour's top wow moment, which is the famous Keukenhof Tulip Gardens. And a number of our early season spring departures get to visit here. This is going to be a clip of one of our Rick Steves guides, a native Hollander, Jody, telling us more.
Hi everyone, this is Jody coming to you from the Keukenhof right here in the Netherlands, one of the most famous tulip gardens in the world. It is open 8 weeks out of the year, starting end of March till about the 11th of May. And then you can enjoy tulips for over 100 flower exporters that show their best bulbs right here on 200 hectares of ground. You can also buy the tulips here if you like. These 100 exporters, they show their barcode, and then you can go online, and next year your garden can look like this if you want. This garden has been here for over 75 years, 76 to be exact, and it's named after the Keukenhof castle that used to stand here since 1641. I really recommend you come here and see our beautiful tulips. If you do come, do keep in mind that it's only open 8 weeks out of the year, so a lot of people want to come and see it. So if you want to see it without all of these crowds, then come on early, because 8 o'clock it already opens, and if you're here at 12, well, you have to share it with other people. There's a lot of shops in here. You can also see the tulips inside for if you experience Dutch weather, rain, it happens here. There's a little windmill. You can see the fields from this windmill. It's just a wonderful place. Come and enjoy our tulips in the Netherlands.
All right, that looked beautiful, and a big thank you to Jody for making the trip to Keukenhof for us.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, our Holland and Belgium tours sell out for those dates, especially after we launch them, and you can definitely see why. But we are going to continue on as I share my screen with our journey through the Netherlands. So our final stop on this tour is Amsterdam, where we'll spend 2 nights exploring a city that's as much historic as it is progressive. And in addition to its bike lanes and canals, we'll get acquainted with its golden age, its Dutch masters, and its most famous resident, Anne Frank. Our next wow moment comes courtesy of longtime Rick Steves Europe staff member and tour guide extraordinaire, Matt Iglesias. Our Turkey tour is one of our most popular and awe-inspiring itineraries. I often recommend this tour to seasoned travelers looking for something a little out of the Western Europe travel box, and for any curious, compassionate, caring people who want to learn about a culture that may be viewed as different or mysterious. In fact, my aunt and uncles just took this trip and fell in love with the culture. So I think Gabe is going to show us a clip from Matt.
Hi, my name is Matt Iglesias. I've been a tour guide for Rick for 29 years. I work in the office as a facility manager. 4 years ago, Rick gave us the opportunity to take a Rick Steves Turkey tour. Me and my fellow guides went over in November and we had the best time. I'd love to show you some of my highlights. So we flew into Istanbul and spent 2 nights. We got to see the Hagia Sophia, the Blue Mosque, the Grand Bazaar. We then went to the capital of Ankara, and my favorite, 3 nights in Cappadocia with the fairy chimneys and hot air ballooning. And then we went to Konya and to the sea, Aegean Sea. We went to Antalya. We went to Pamukkale and swam in the beautiful waters there and finished up in Ephesus. It was a wonderful trip, and I really enjoyed it with all my tour guide friends. So this was the group that I got to travel with, my friends, tour guides from all over Europe. Spent 3 nights and had the opportunity to go up in a hot air balloon in Cappadocia. We got to see the fairy chimneys. We went up into the clouds. We saw the beautiful scenery. It was November, so it was a bit cool, but was a highlight of my life. I really enjoyed it. My favorite was looking out and seeing all the hot air balloons above the region of Cappadocia. My second highlight was a beard trim from a Turkish barber. Me and my friend Reagan grew out our beards and we got to experience something that not many people do. We got our beards trimmed and then used a flame to burn off the small hairs on our face and ears, a straight razor to get a very close shave, with us smiling and clean shaven. We had the best time in Turkey. I hope you enjoyed this little excursion with me to Turkey. I really enjoyed it with my friends, my fellow tour guides. Being a tour guide, I get to travel a lot, but being with friends is the best. Happy travels.
All right. A big thank you to Matt, who actually just retired from guiding, still works for us, but just did his last tour earlier this year after 29 years of guiding. And I love just seeing that our guides are friends and enjoy their time together. And occasionally there will be a guides tour.
Yeah, and that our guides are travelers too, that they love travel and guiding just as much as the people on the tours.
Yeah, and get to regions that, beyond just the ones that they lead.
Mhm.
And as I was looking at that and watching Matt looking out over the fairy chimneys of Cappadocia, it made me think about kind of other magical moments on tour. I think there's, of course, on our tours, every place that we go is noteworthy and historic. And sometimes I feel like, wow, this is just an incredible place on planet Earth. And then every once in a while, there's places that make me feel like I've almost been transported off planet Earth. And some of my favorites there, one is Stonehenge, which still is so shrouded in mystery and mysticism. And we stopped by it on our Best of England tour. Venice, I've always said, is just a sight in and of itself. The number of bridges, the canals, the gondoliers, it does feel otherworldly. And of course, the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, which we visit on our Best of Spain tour. Moving along, we have our Oh, I'm not sure if my images were displaying there. So here we have, again, Stonehenge, we have Venice, and we have the Sagrada Familia. All right, I had the opportunity to go to Turkey last summer. I was in Istanbul, and this, as Robin said, we love having tours available. Certainly, Istanbul could be good for adventurous first-time travelers, but it's also a wonderful place for people that have maybe traveled in Europe quite a bit and are looking for a place that pushes their boundaries a little bit. Rick often says that he likes to end each trip in Istanbul because he gradually works his way from west to east and gets a little bit more and more culture shock as he goes. And you definitely might have some culture shock in Istanbul, but there will be a lot of favorite moments, and we're going to share a few from our travelers now. First, I want to show one of our excellent guides, Lale. In my humble opinion, Lale is the foremost expert at sharing Turkey and Turkish culture with North Americans. And I don't know if she does this for every tour, but I know that at least I was in town the day before a Turkey tour started, and Lale offered an option for Turkey tour members that if they wanted to pay a small additional fee, she would do an extra day of activities for them before the tour, which went to lesser known neighborhoods of Istanbul and also showed some of the local delicacies. And here she is showing us how to eat a stuffed mussel.
Rest the sharp end on your fingers. Break it from the pointed end. Watch me do it first. Watch. Break it from the pointed end, and it splits into two. Rest it on your. Okay, good. Then you use the empty shell as a spoon to scoop it out. You scoop it out, but don't eat yet. So I have a shell full of here. Then you get the lemon. You put a few drops of lemon to it. There you are. I can get the seed out. Now eat it.
So I think that this is a great example of how having a local guide with you, they don't just show you the customs, but they teach you the history of it. They teach you how to do it. And this is a great example that maybe you don't want to try a full plate of stuffed mussels all by yourself, but the guide will get a plate for the table. You can sample it and determine if you want it later in the tour. So certainly food is a big highlight throughout all of Istanbul. There is also the Topkapi Palace, which is where the ruling sultans of the Ottoman Empire lived for generations, amongst all of their luxury, looking out over the rest of the city. You can see that there are these beautiful reflecting pools and this ornate, intricate Muslim artwork, and beautiful balconies to look out over the Bosphorus and the opposite bank of the Bosphorus River, where the city continues. The favorite site for travelers, though, is experiencing the mosques of Istanbul. So the most famous is the Hagia Sophia. One thing I think is fascinating is you'd be forgiven if milling around Istanbul, you see all of these cascading domes and think, oh, this is just an iconic feature of mosques. But actually, Hagia Sophia started out as a Christian church built by Emperor Justinian at the end of the Roman Empire. And for decades and decades, it was the grandest building in the Western world. So when the Ottomans came in, they converted it to a mosque, but it also became the exemplar for future mosques throughout the city. So this was first a church and then inspired the architecture that we think of as being typical of the mosques. You also get to go inside with your tour group and see how many of the Christian artworks have been laid over with Islamic artworks because, of course, they do not allow depictions of the human form, though you can see a few examples sneak through and your guide can point those out to you. On the opposite side of a large park facing the Hagia Sophia, the two of them kind of flank this big central park filled with literally thousands of people. On the other end is the Blue Mosque, which is the most monumental and imposing of all of them. But on the inside, it is all intricate, lacy artworks called the Blue Mosque because of how much blue pigment is used in the interior here. And it really is a special place. Rick thinks it's important for Western travelers to experience Islamic culture and especially a secular Islamic society like in Turkey. And lastly, I have to give a shout out to the Hurrem Sultan Hammam Baths. This was designed by Mimar Sinan. He was the head architect of the Sultan Suleiman the Great, and he created this bathhouse complex for Suleiman's wife, Roxolana. You can still go there to have a traditional Turkish bath today. It is a bit of a splurge, but it is another world inside that building, and I couldn't take photos, so you're going to have to go experience it for yourself. A few other Istanbul highlights. We take a Bosphorus boat cruise on our Istanbul city tour. Of course, a wide variety of Turkish foods. We see here just a typical feast with dishes and dishes and dishes of things to spread on your various breads and rice. And then another photo. This is a peek inside one of the Turkish baths. You too can be enveloped in foam and feel like you've just been dunked in soda and feel all the effervescence around you. Moving on, we are next going to go to the best of Poland. This did get covered in last night's presentation on Central and Eastern Europe. So if you want to learn more, you can watch that recording. But my dear colleague and friend Stephen was recently there just last year, and he's going to give a couple of his favorite moments from the tour. So let's hear from Stephen about his experience on our Best of Poland tour.
Hi, I'm Stephen from the Rick Steves Tour Department. You may have talked to me before if you've called in with questions about our tour program, and I'm excited to share my wow moment from my most recent tour in Poland that I took last September. So to start things off with this tour, we begin in Gdańsk, and then we work our way down south through the small gingerbread town of Torun. We visit the metropolitan city of Warsaw, and finally we finish off in beautiful Krakow. And this is one of our newest tours. And it's an active tour, but overall the pace is good. There's not too many hills in Poland, so you're not going to be climbing up very many of those. And it's an attractive trip for history lovers as well. A lot of these cities have excellent museums, and there's just so many layers of history in Poland as well. Also, there's lots of indoor sites and activities for the rainy days. It's also a lesser expensive part of Europe to travel in. So if you're looking for something more budget friendly, this is a great country to look at. And best of all, there's less crowds in Poland than other parts of Europe. We can't talk about Poland without addressing our wonderful guides first. This is Agnes. She was my guide for the 10 days that I was in Poland. And she is just a national treasure, very bubbly and energetic and just really fun to be around. So we were very fortunate to have her as our guide on this tour. So the first wow moment I'd like to share is the hotel that we stay at in Warsaw, the Chopin B&B. This is the view of downtown Warsaw from the rooftop. And one of the special things that the hotel puts together for us is a Chopin piano recital. So we go down there and they give us some drinks and snacks to nibble on while we enjoy the show. And another fun thing that they do for our groups is they put together a Ukrainian feast for our groups. The staff that stay at this hotel, a lot of them are Ukrainian refugees. And so they put on this dinner for us, and they also have some traditional Ukrainian music playing too while we eat. And perhaps my favorite wow moment from the tour took place in Krakow. We split up into smaller groups and we meet with a local person who takes us to a market where we can gather ingredients to make pierogis. So we actually go to their home and we talk about all sorts of things about Polish life, about life back in our homelands. And it's just a really nice people-to-people connection that I think is something that's really unique and special to this tour. Thanks for coming along and reviewing this Poland tour with me, and happy travels.
Oh, that looks delicious. I want some pierogi now, Robin.
Oh, okay. So the best part of all of that is when you go to the market to shop for the ingredients, you get to try the little the squeaky cheese that they make in like the Tatras, the high mountains of Poland. Oh, it's the best thing ever.
What is squeaky cheese?
Well, it squeaks. I mean, it doesn't make sound, but it kind of squeaks in your teeth, and it's like a smoked kind of thing. I don't know. It's unique and delicious. It actually looks like bread. So you see the stall and it looks like little pieces of bread or little mini loaves of bread, but it's actually loaves of cheese, which is like my dream. So there you go.
I need a loaf of cheese immediately.
Everyone needs a loaf of cheese. And since we're talking about all of these delicious food items, then we should talk about other experiences that we have on tour. There's no better way to learn about a culture than through your stomach. And the best way to appreciate a meal is having a hand in making it. So our cooking classes and demonstrations are always a highlight of any tour. They're sure to build camaraderie, generate laughter, and fill the soul as much as filling your belly. So some of our favorite cooking classes involve pasty making, pasta making, and risotto making. I think there's a common theme here. And even if your tour doesn't include a specific class, there's no shortage of opportunities for you to taste those local delicacies like pickled herring, escargot, or hamon, or simply eating seasonally with fresh fruits and vegetables. And that's why we make sure to hand select the best group meal options throughout every tour. Well, we are journeying east for our next wow moment, which takes place on day 5 of our Athens in the Heart of Greece tour. But before I reveal what it is, let me give you a brief rundown of this top-selling tour. Gabe, I'm often asked what my #1 tour is, and while I try not to play favorites, I honestly say that Greece is a place that I can go back to year after year, thanks to the people and the places. And our Athens and Heart of Greece tour, it hugs the Peloponnesian coast, and it takes you past way more ancient sites that you could possibly imagine, including Delphi, Monemvasia, and even Athens Acropolis. We also pause in the lost in time Mani Peninsula, we explore elegant Nafplio, and we relax on the traffic-free island of Hydra, where you're going to live out your Greek island fantasy. So no surprise, our tour begins in Athens, where you'll be warmly welcomed by both the weather and the locals. We'll hit the ground running with a magical history tour of Athens' most legendary site, the Acropolis. And this is just one small taste and a warm-up of all the ancient sites you're about to see along the way. After 2 nights in Athens, it's off to the mystical Delphi, where we'll take in fresh mountain air and consult the oracle. The next day, it's up and over the Gulf of Corinth, heading into the heart of the Peloponnese, where we'll sleep 1 night in a traditional mountain village. And no trip to Greece is complete without a visit to the ancient Olympic site. And it's home to the world's first Olympics over 2,700 years ago. The ancient site is lovingly brought to life by our local guide, another theme you'll hear throughout this evening. And our local guide explains how and why the games came to be. And sports fans in particular will enjoy walking through the athletes' tunnel onto the original stadium, taking a mark at the starting line and even running a length or two. Even if you're not an athlete, it's hard not to imagine just how many people have stood exactly where you're standing, thinking about where they've come from, what their story was, and what brought them and you to this very place. So, top wow moment, ancient Olympia. But after that, we travel south to the Mani Peninsula, where we'll sleep for 2 nights, and it's just about halfway through the tour, so it's a perfect place to enjoy a vacation from your vacation. We'll trace the peninsula through charming villages and long-forgotten ghost towns on your way to the medieval Monemvasia with its causeway-divided old town. And tomorrow is a relatively free day. In the morning, we'll cross the causeway and get oriented to the lower town, giving you plenty of time to clamber to the upper town for its Byzantine, Ottoman, and Venetian remains. From Monemvasia, we journey north to the fortress towns of Mistras and nearby Sparta for an afternoon of haunting ruins and Byzantine churches before we reach our final destination for the day, the delightful fortress-topped harbor town of Nafplio. Again, here we'll sleep for 2 nights, making a day trip to the nearby Mycenae and its Lion's Gate. It was the fortified city founded by Perseus 1,000 years before the Parthenon was built, which just blows my mind because the Parthenon in and of itself seems old enough to me. The next morning, as we depart Nafplio, we'll stop by the ancient theater of Epidavros before making our way to that pedestrian island of Hydra, which is our home for the next 2 nights. Tomorrow, you'll have an entire day free to explore the island's hidden treasures. Then, back on the mainland, we return to Athens via the Corinth Canal for one last night together as a group. Well, Gabe, I don't know. It's hard for me to not have a favorite, but definitely Athens is up there.
Robin, I've actually never been to Greece, and that is one of the top tours on my list. So The fact
It's a
that it is
favorite.
your maybe favorite, even though you don't pick favorites, is
I know. Well, it's a tour member favorite, I can tell you that much. Well, we are going to continue our journey.
to
Oh, no,
Bulgaria.
in Bulgaria.
In Bulgaria. So I am going to take us to Bulgaria, which actually shares a border with Rome, or sorry, Rome, that just popped up, which shares a border with Greece. People often forget that. Many people don't know much about Bulgaria. I think I probably could have fit everything that I know about it on a sticky note before I left home. And this is one of our best of tours. Sometimes we internally we call it a survey tour because it's designed to give you a general comprehensive understanding of the entire country and its major sites by the end. And I really felt like I had that. By the end, I felt like I could have written a 10,000 word essay on Bulgaria if I needed to. But I'm not going to do that tonight. I'm just going to share a few of my favorite moments and a few of the favorites that we hear from our tour members. So I was on this tour just back in September, and one favorite is the Rila Monastery. The Rila Monastery really is kind of definitely the religious heart of the country, but really a symbol of Bulgaria and Bulgarian national identity and pride. And you can see why it is absolutely gorgeous. We have right here our guide, Stefan, who is using the beautiful artwork on the sides to tell us about the origins of this building. It was founded by Saint John of Rila in the 10th century. And like many monks of the time, and he had hermit tendencies and wanted to get as far away from the comforts of life as possible. So he climbed up into the Rila Mountains and holed up in a cave and continued to do his prayers from there. He very much became a legend during his lifetime and soon had other monks joining him until they finally built this entire monastic complex. They were very strict that I could not bring cameras inside, but trust that the inside is equally as beautiful as the outside. And the outside really is beautiful. It almost acts as kind of a graphic novel of the Christian faith and the various laws and commandments that it imparts to its practitioners through the Bulgarian lens. And it is just photo op after photo op. Every inch is used. And also up here, not all of the monks were quite as averse to creature comforts as St. John of Rila was. So they did create these terraced rooms. And this is also where pilgrims would stay when they made pilgrimages to the Rila Monastery. And each room is for pilgrims from a different region. So you can kind of learn about the nearby regions. They're all decorated according to the region whose pilgrims they house. But this is me and Stefan and my colleague Deanna, who is also on the tour with us. All of our staffers at Rick Steves Europe love taking our tours whenever we can, and it was a special moment to share with them. The top wow moment, as provided by our tour members, is the Black Sea. So we go out to Varna, which is the major Black Sea resort town. It's hard to believe that we're in this beautiful resort town, and on the other end of that body of water is Ukraine. But beautiful beaches here. It was a drizzly day, but the water was quite warm. So I went for a little swim, and so did some of our tour members. So this was a favorite. It's kind of not a full vacation from your vacation day, but we have a long free afternoon to go to other sites or just to enjoy the water. And there's even some thermal hot springs. So if you're a little chilly after you get out, there's some thermal hot springs that you can go to warm up. The last wow moment, and my favorite, came in the medieval capital of Bulgaria, Veliko Tarnovo. And it was this merchant street, the name of which I will not try to pronounce, but it was lined with shops of different artisans who all continue traditional Bulgarian crafts. So here we have Nina and her son Demeter, and they create pottery based on archaeological finds from the 12th and 13th centuries, trying to use the same practices and the same designs as much as possible. So we all crammed into their tiny little workshop. We were very cozy. They were very welcoming. Nina showed us how she uses traditional tools and her hands to mold the clay into shape. And on the other side of the workshop, Demeter was showing us how he carves away the patterns that create the beautiful designs on the pottery. Then they get fired twice, once to bake the clay and once for the glaze, and you have a beautiful souvenir to buy. It is something that you know is handcrafted, it's rooted to a memory, you know the artisans that you're benefiting, and they were very reasonably priced. Literally next door, we have a silversmith. He did a demonstration for us, so theoretically, if I was paying attention, I should have understood what he does, and I still do not know how he creates this beautiful art. And next door, we have Rumi, the woodworker. She makes both practical tools like cutting boards and spoons, but also some more decorative pieces. And then there was Rashko, who paints icons, so kind of religious icons. We see him here explaining to us his process. And here's an example of him with the Virgin Mary icon. And all of these shops have a little sign that tells you that this is a handcrafted product. So here's our group after a very rewarding shopping spree. And a few other highlights of the best of Bulgaria. In Plovdiv, we go to the Bishop's Palace, which is an old Roman church with these glorious mosaic floors featuring a veritable aviary of birds. We have the Buzluja Monument, which was a former meeting place for the Communist Party and is kind of a modern ruin that is very evocative on the top of the mountain. And on the last day, we go to the tiny village of Asenovo with a population of 200. This is the mayor and her mother-in-law, and they made us lunch in their backyard. I don't think I've ever felt so at home with people that I've never met before. So it was a true pleasure and an incredible tour. So now, Robin, I am going to turn things over to you, and you are now going to take us to Rome.
I am now going to take us to Rome, but that is hard to follow, Gabe. That Bulgaria tour just looks so full of cultural connections and demonstrations, just the kind of thing that we like to enjoy when we are on tour. So yes, we are going to go to Rome, and we did learn about Rome as part of our Italy class early in the festival, but this wow moment comes from our 7-day Rome city tour. On our Best of Rome city tour in 7 days, we have you living La Dolce Vita, that sweet life, as you wind your way from the grandeur of ancient Rome to modern day life. And what I love about the Rome city tour is just how much you get to do and see while you're there. And yeah, we make sure we include all the famous sites that you may have heard about your whole life, like the Trevi Fountain or the Colosseum and the Forum. But we also make sure to get off that beaten path, exploring those backdoor neighborhoods, cooking with locals, and gaining appreciation of what makes Rome the eternal city. And to top it off, we spend a day exploring the ruins and beautifully preserved mosaics at Ostia Antica, Rome's first colony and ancient seaport. So this tour especially is full of exquisite art and moving masterpieces, but according to our tour members, the most impressionable moment of the tour is visiting the Borghese Gallery. And it's more than just a great museum. The Borghese Gallery is a beautiful villa set in the leafy surrounding gardens. And the art here includes Baroque masters Bernini and Caravaggio, and it was commissioned by those Borghese family and displayed in these just fantastic, beautifully displayed frescoed rooms. And you're going to explore this tour with a local guide to bring it all to life for you. And speaking of Rome as a city tour, we have our first grand prize giveaway of the evening. And Gabe, I am getting ready to leave for a big research trip. So I'm in the middle of packing, and I always take this mug with me so that I can have coffee in my room whenever I need it. And I am going to pull the winner from this coffee mug. So drum roll.
Oh.
The first winner of the evening is Gina Miller from Illinois. So congratulations to our tour sales team. Will be in touch with you probably sometime next week, and we wish you a happy tour.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a good point, Robin. I guess we're doing this on a Friday night. So our tour sales team will get our email with the winners on Monday morning and reach out next week.
Exactly. Okay, so next we have the Best of Andalucia tour, and we covered this itinerary earlier in the week in our Spain and Portugal class, so I'm not going to go over too many details. But this wow moment comes from a Rick Steves staffer, Divya, who's actually helping behind the scenes this evening. She was wowed by what this tour had to offer, and we are going to hear more from her.
Hi, everybody. My name is Divya. I work in the tour sales department at Rick Steves Europe. I help answer questions about our tours to different countries in Europe. I also help people plan travel and really make travel dreams a reality for them. Last October, I had the amazing opportunity to be on our Andalucia tour. So with the Best of Andalucia tour in 10 days, we start in Cordoba. We spend 2 nights in Cordoba, which is a wonderful Andalusian city. From there, we move on to Ubeda, which is a Renaissance town with amazing olive groves. We learn how olive oil is made over there. And from there, we move on to Granada. We spend 2 nights in Granada and then move on to Ronda for a night before we end the tour in beautiful Sevilla. I just want to share a few moments on that tour. On this tour, I wanted to highlight the food first because it's really pretty delicious. Arabic meze plates served with cardamom tea or tea that's influenced by Andalusian taste buds. From there, I want to take you and show you a little bit of the flamenco in the area. This picture shows how powerful the dance is. It also showcases the dancers' beautiful costumes, and we do go for a flamenco performance in Cordoba on this tour. The flower patios in Cordoba are really a competition between households, but it's just so wonderful to see how they're laid out and what kind of plants are planted with great love and care in all these different pots. My 2 wow moments, though, were one was a Mesquita, which is a mosque cathedral. And it's very interesting because it has, parts of the mosque still exist there, but there's also this beautiful cathedral which is built inside the mosque. And so when I stood there and looked up, I could see these beautiful archways, designs of both the mosque and the cathedral. And I felt small, but at the same time, it was very powerful to stand there and just feel the space as it was. The second beautiful aspect and wow moment on the store is definitely the Alhambra Palace. The design, the architecture, the magnificence of its gardens really showcased how the sultans, and the great kings of the Al-Andalus dynasty lived in those times. So again, a place where you stop taking pictures after a point. So it was definitely a big wow moment on the store. We also do have dinner in a wonderful restaurant which has a beautiful viewing of the Alhambra at night. So that was definitely a wow moment. And here are some happy tour members on this tour. So that was our tour of Andalusia. I really hope you can visit Andalusia someday and see what I have experienced. Happy travels, everybody.
So a big thank you to Divya for filming that for us. And again, Divya is in the Q&A tonight. So if you have any Andalusia questions, I'm sure that Divya would be happy to answer them. I want to finish. Divya talked a little bit about 2 great architectural wow moments from our tours, the Alhambra and the Mezquita in Cordoba, and a few other great architectural wonders for those of you that enjoy them. In our Paris in the Heart of France tour, we go to Guédelon Castle, which is a new castle that is being constructed in the 13th century style using only tools and techniques that would have been available back then. It really is an undertaking unlike any other on planet Earth right now. One of my favorites, I studied abroad in York, England, and I love walking the walls. You can still see the Roman foundations of them in some places, and it takes you almost all the way around the city. They really are a marvel. And of course, the Duomo in Florence is one of the most iconic sites in all of Italy. All right, now, before we get on to our final drawing and on to our Q&A session, I want to ask a question of our viewers. We have gone through a lot of wow moments this evening, and we have just a fun little poll for you. I would like to know, we went through 10 different tours this evening and some of their wow moments, and I would like to know if you had to choose one of the wow moments to experience, which would you choose? So this should be popping up on your screen. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds. Would you want to cruise Norway's scenic Sognefjord? Would you want to learn to yodel in Appenzell? Do you want to tour the tulips at Keukenhof? Would you want to take a hot air balloon over Cappadocia? Marvel at the great mosques of Istanbul? Prepare pierogi with locals in Krakow? Explore the ancient Acropolis of Athens? Visit Bulgaria's colorful Rila Monastery? Gawk at art in Rome's Borghese Gallery? Or admire Granada's Alhambra Palace? So take just a couple more seconds and then we will see what most wowed people in tonight's presentation.
Dave, I'm very disappointed. There is a message appearing on my screen saying hosts and panelists cannot vote.
Robin,
It would be hard.
We have to, we can't have you unfairly influencing people.
I know. And it would be hard to
fair
choose.
election. All right, so let's see the results. I think that we have some nature lovers among us, Robin, because I think we have our top 2 options. Actually, our top 3, we have the tulips at Keukenhof, I think in number 3. And then it was a tight battle between the Sognefjord and Cappadocia, with Cappadocia just having the edge.
You know what, Gabe? I just thought of something here. Living in the Pacific Northwest, especially up here, we have basically all 3 of those things just in our area. We have the Skagit Valley tulips. We have the hot air balloons, especially over in Snohomish. And what was the third one?
The fjords.
The fjords. Oh, come on. We have all the mountains and ferries that you could possibly imagine. So forget Europe, just come to the Pacific Northwest, right?
So I think everybody can see the results now if they want to give them a look. But yes, Robin, we're pivoting from promoting Europe and now we're promoting our home. Come visit the travel center. We're open Saturdays, Edmonds, Washington. We would love to see you there. All right, so Robin, we have gone over 10 different itineraries. We kind of counted our way down, but I have one more bonus wow moment before we get to our second drawing, and that is our guides. Genuinely, when I've read I've read hundreds of tour evaluations in my time working at Rick Steves Europe, and our guides are probably the most frequently listed wow moment. They are knowledgeable, they are personable, they are enthusiastic. Again, they are always on your side and they are your friend throughout the tour. I want to give a special shout out to the guides that have made this Festival of Tours possible. We had 6 guides join us, wake up in the middle of the night in Europe during their busy time of year. So a special thank you to Marianne and Nina and Jim, and of course to Charlie and Virginie and Francisco. They are just 6 of our slate of a couple hundred fantastic guides. And again, we don't just have your lead guides, we also have local guides. So in various sites throughout your tour, you will have local experts that take you more in depth in those places. And so Robin, before we do our second prize drawing and our Q&A, do you have any final nuggets of wisdom?
Oh, wisdom, maybe not, but a pattern that I saw in addition to the food and, you know, the art and the history and everything, something I notice is the moment itself being the wow of the tour. You know, just having that moment. We heard from Marta too, just the awe-inspiring moment when she was in the Alps feeling like the world is so big. Just having the opportunity to live in that moment, experience something that you've maybe dreamed about your whole life. I think that is another honorable mention for the biggest wow on tour.
I agree. And, you know, you can get wow moments traveling by yourself as well, but it certainly is nice to have some of them curated for you and to not have the stress of finding a way to make them happen.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Robin, it is that time. We're going to give away our second and final city tour for the evening. The winner will get to choose a 7-day Rick Steves Europe tour to London, Paris, Rome, or Istanbul. And because I am a good Dutch boy, I'm going to draw my winner out of a wooden shoe. So let's see what the wooden shoe has in store. All right. The winner of our second Rick Steves Europe City Tour is from Topeka, Kansas. So congratulations on your city tour. All right, at this juncture, I would like to welcome back on Emily Burks. Emily, do you have some questions for us?
I certainly do. And at the top of the show, I don't know if you guys remember, but I said that this show would be a good one to watch if you're having trouble deciding between tour itineraries. And at least one commenter said that you guys made all of the itineraries look so wonderful that they actually are even more torn between these tours. So you guys did an excellent job.
I guess that just means anyone you go on, you're gonna love.
I saw one viewer was saying the other day that she takes one tour each year and she's already now basically has them lined up through like 2028.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can't miss. Exactly.
To be clear, you can't sign up for a 2028 tour. She just
She's
has
just
it. She
dreaming.
just has her plan.
Yeah, she is ahead of the game. And I'm the same way. I know my colleagues and I, we like to talk about what tours we're going to go on for our staff benefit. And I have a couple planned a few years out. So I totally sympathize. And we have a number of questions for the two of you. But before we get to those, I just would like to remind everyone that we are still offering that early booking discount of $100 off per traveler on all 2026 bookings from now through July 7th. So you can still take advantage of that. And we do have a number of 2025 tours on sale. So if you would like to travel with us this year, don't hesitate to check out our tours on sale. And lastly, this is our last event of our 2025 Tour Festival, but we have a number of virtual events coming up, beginning with Monday Night Travel on May 5th, during which we will explore Mexico City. So be sure to join us live for that on May 5th.
We've had enough Europe. I mean, we love it, but after 9 nights, we need to get to a different destination. So a nice little excursion to Mexico will be nice.
Yes, I loved Robin's pitch for the Pacific Northwest. All right. So Gabe, I am going to start with a question for you. And we have had some people in the comments, especially last night when we were focusing on Central Europe, who were vegetarian. And they were a little worried about finding vegetarian food everywhere they traveled with us. And so I was wondering if you had any words of wisdom for your fellow traveling vegetarians.
Yes, I do. So first of all, the important thing to know is that if you are on a tour, you can, in your sign-up process, you will say what your dietary restrictions are. Your guide, when you arrive, is going to touch base with you, and they're going to make sure that you have something to eat for all of the meals that are included in the tour. I always say, I feel like about 75% of the things that I'm served as a vegetarian are equally as delicious and interesting as my omnivore counterparts. That said, if you are going to stick to a stricter diet, every once in a while I've gotten a big salad or a big plate of sauteed mushrooms, which I love sauteed mushrooms, don't get me wrong, but every once in a while you might have a meal that's not quite as interesting. In terms of on your personal meals, speaking for Bulgaria, Bulgaria actually surprised me in that its cuisine is almost more Mediterranean than it is Slavic. So there were a lot of great Greek style salads. They would point out that there are important differences, but cheese and tomatoes and cucumbers and bell peppers. So as a vegetarian, I ate there very happily. And I've never been in a place in Europe where I haven't been able to find something, and I'm almost always able to find something that I'm really happy about.
Wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. And I think, and you'd be the best person to answer for this, but from my perspective, it seems like things just get better and better with each year. So I was on our Scotland tour last summer, and I was in the Highlands, and the first totally vegan hotel in Scotland was in one of these little Highland towns we go to on tour. So you never know where you're going to find a good vegetarian meal.
And I'll also say, for me, I choose not to eat meat. If I accidentally eat some in some mystery Spanish tapa, I'll be fine. If you have any food allergies, there is an organization, I forget what the acronym is for, but it's FARE, FAIR, and they create these things called chef cards where you can put in what your dietary restriction is, where you're going to be traveling, and you can print off these little cards that will explain to servers in the local language what you cannot eat, if it's a matter of food safety.
Thank you, Gabe. That's an important distinction for sure. Okay. Robin, this might be a good question for you since you are our tour program manager. So when you guys were talking about the Bulgaria tour, some of our viewers were wondering why we don't visit Romania. And so I was curious if there has ever been a Romania tour on the horizon, and also if you have any insights to share about what goes into creating one of our tour itineraries.
Yeah, Romania is definitely an interesting place to travel. We haven't thought about planning any kind of tour there just yet. We really try to focus on things that the first time or repeat traveler is going to really want to do. And the world is so big and Europe is so big. We have plenty of other options right now that we're just trying to maximize everyone's demand to want to go to these places. And yeah, we're always looking at the horizon for new places for sure. What goes into tour planning? Well, a lot. There's a lot of work that goes into it. I mean, it kind of starts with a dream and an idea, and you kind of map out, just like I'm sure you do, the viewers at home do when they're planning any kind of trip, is start listing the places you want to go, how much time do you have to spend, what's your budget, and then start talking about or thinking about what you can do in each place. Yeah, the last tour that we created or that I helped create was the Poland tour. And from the start, we knew we wanted to have pierogis. We knew we wanted to have vodka. We knew we wanted to do these things. And then it was just a matter of like, where is the best place to do it? What is the best experience to have? So it's about a 2.5 year process.
Well, that is a good segue into my next question, which we have some people in the Zoom with us tonight who are actually going on one of our tours within the next several weeks, and they are curious about how to balance advanced bookings with spontaneity. And I'm curious how you guys, plan an itinerary where you make sure you get to see everything you'd like to see, but you still leave a little room to discover something new.
Well, leave room to discover new things. And also, just as we learned this evening, not everything always goes to plan. So that's an important thing, to just be flexible as a traveler. I would say like our guidebooks are the very best place to go and see what sites absolutely necessitate a reservation. And if that is a place that you would like to go, definitely you just need to build it into your itinerary, make that reservation. The Borghese Gallery, which was one of the wow moments tonight of the Rome City tour, of course, on the tour that's taken care of, we make the reservation for you. But if you are an individual traveler going to Rome, you need to get a reservation for the Borghese Gallery to have a specific day and time to enter. So yeah, you can always plan time to be flexible as well, but having a list of your must-see sites and then checking them against what the Rick Steves guidebook says. Is it mandatory, necessary to have a reservation, or is it just nice to have, or is it totally needless? We say it directly in those books.
I would also say, Emily, and honestly, you would probably know this better than I do, working in our tour sales and services department, talking with our tour members every day. But I know that we do try to provide itineraries in advance. You can find the itineraries on the website. It will say you have a free afternoon. We try to keep that as regular as possible. That said, every once in a while, there are going to be differences from tour to tour with different tour groups, because sometimes the site says, sorry, we only have availability at this time. So it is something, if you are hoping to schedule a timed entry reservation in a place during the tour when you have a free afternoon, it would probably be worth reaching out to our tour sales and services staff just to ask if that is a good idea. I also typically, when I'm traveling independently, if you're thinking of adding some time before or after the tour, my rule of thumb is that I try to only schedule one timed entry reservation thing per day, and then I can plan everything else in my day around it. And also, I would find it too stressful to have more than one a day. And I don't plan them for days that I'm traveling because if I'm taking a train and the train is delayed, I want to be able to have flexibility on my travel days.
Thank you. Thank you both. And yeah, just to add on to that, Gabe, my other role here is in our tour sales department, and we do a really good job of when your tour goes to a destination where there are a lot of sites that require timed entry. For example, our Venice, Florence, Rome tour, all three cities have many sites which require timed entries. We're really good about warning you in advance, and we are more than happy to confirm if the reservations you'd like to make in your free time are at a good time. If you want to shoot us an email or give us a call. So we are happy to help you with that. And let's see, we have time for a couple more questions. So this one is for both of you. The three of us have now all traveled solo on Rick Steves tours. And sometimes we get some travelers who are a little nervous about joining a group tour as a solo traveler. So I was curious if you guys had any advice for those people.
Extroverts have the most fun. That's something that Rick always says. But as a solo traveler on any of our tours, you won't really be alone. You'll be with, 24, 25, 26 other people. And there's just such a group bonding camaraderie that naturally occurs, that it's often, a solo traveler will go out with a couple or with a group of four people, go out to dinner, go out to lunch, do activities. So it's not really like you're traveling completely by yourself.
I agree. I find our tour groups to be extremely friendly. I think that that is something that we talk about in that Tours 101 session is we want people that you don't have to be an extrovert, but introverts that can maybe push themselves to be a little bit more extroverted every now and then, to connect with their fellow tour members. On my Bulgaria tour, granted, this is unusual, but I think we had 12 solo travelers, which is a very high amount. I wouldn't say that's an average tour, but
Oh, that's a record.
We always have a few. And yeah, I find our groups to be extremely warm and welcoming. And
I can actually say that in 2024, there was an average of 3 solo travelers on any given departure.
And I will say also, our group sizes 24 to 28. Occasionally we have people that are like, oh, I want to be on an even smaller boutique tour, but we've actually really intentionally chosen that number as kind of this perfect size tour group where it's small enough that you get to know everybody, but also large enough that our tour members are great. But if there's somebody that for whatever reason you don't jive with, they are not 10% of your tour group for 2 weeks. So I do think that we get it's a perfect amount of people that you can kind of churn through, sit near new people on the bus, sit near new people on the group meals, and get to know a variety of people.
For sure. And I found just by being a solo traveler on our tours, there's so many group meals and group activities, and it's a really easy environment to make friends. So it's a good way to meet some new people.
But there's also plenty of free time for introverted people to recharge.
That is very true. Okay. I have just one more question for the two of you. And I am wondering where you are both most looking forward to traveling in 2025.
Does it have to be Europe?
No, does not. It could be somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, Robin.
I'm excited for all my trips. I am heading out to Sicily to do some guidebook research. In the fall, I'm going to head out to Belgium to do some guidebook research, and then to Tuscany. And for fun, I'm going to be traveling to Japan in June.
I am hoping to be traveling to France this summer. My sister is spending the year as an au pair just outside of Paris, and I also lived in southwestern France, so I'm hoping to visit her and then go see my host family and maybe explore a few other places in southern France. So that is my hope for the summer.
Wonderful. Well, I am wishing happy travels to both of you. And I also just want to say thank you both so much for this presentation. This has just been such a fun whirlwind across Europe, and I really enjoyed it, and I know our viewers did too. So thank you so much.
And thank you to all of our viewers who joined us throughout the festival. Robin and I are both marathon runners, and Robin, I think we can agree that I feel a little bit like I'm at the finish line of a marathon. I'm pretty tired, but I feel like together we pulled together something that was really fun and exciting, and like in many marathons, had a few thousand people alongside us.
I agree.
All right. Well, you two deserve a very good Friday night off. So I am going to say good night to both of you. And I also would like to remind you all once more that we have a number of virtual events coming up, starting with Monday Night Travel on May 5th. We are traveling to Mexico City, and you can join us live by registering on our website or with a link in the chat. And as Gabe said, this has been such a fun 2 weeks of tours and travel, and I want to thank you all for spending your evenings with us. And until next time, happy travels.